Donald Rumsfeld, the former United States Defense Secretary, tried to maintain an atmosphere of fear in America as part of the war on propaganda campaign. A series of leaked memos has shown, reports the London Telegraph. In an April 2006 memo, Rumsfeld encouraged Pentagon officials to keep elevating the threat and talk about Somalia, the Philippines, etc. Make the American people realize they are surrounded in the world by violent extremists. And it continues. Then you actually study all these men. These were hardcore ground operatives in black ops worldwide. These are seasoned hardcore killers. And they want the power, and they've said, why not take over? And they got the big banks full backing, and they are serious. I just learned that Marcus Wolf, the former head of the Stasi, who was hired in 2003 and paid over $1 million to consult the federal government on the setting up of the Tattletale Society. And now you see it every day in the news. FBI in rural area pays for dinner to have locals come and tells them they need them to fight terror and spy on neighbors and report dossiers and look for marijuana plants and fight crime. And does somebody have black powder? And so there's no real terrorist in Illinois or Indiana or Missouri or California. It's just Bureau of Land Management, Forestry Service, citizens literally creeping around watching you. Just they've recruited 400,000+ truckers. Now they want to expand it to millions. In the Eagle Eyes program to look for terrorists, but then they say, oh, and guns, or people spanking their children, or just anything. Just call police. Just spies everywhere. Marcus Wolf, the Stasi. But in a world where Americans can't find Iran on a map or can't find the U.S. on a map, they say Stasi schmazi. Is that some kind of new Austrian dish? No, ladies and gentlemen, it is the recognized most wicked, most evil surveilled society in world history, East Germany. The merger of the Nazis / GRU KGB system. And it makes me reel to realize they hired Primakov. I mean, they're hiring hundreds of thousands of aggravated felons for the National Guard and the military. I told you that years ago. Now it's mainstream news. They're hiring illegal aliens. I mean, all of that. Each one of those is red alert, red flags, emergency insanity, open martial law discussions, former KGB chiefs, former Stasi chiefs on how to set it up, and then they do it. You better be afraid of not fighting them and speaking out against them. The good news is they're totally discredited. The people are finding out now. This is not war-torn, destroyed East Germany where you could set this up. This is not the poor, enslaved Russians under Tsarist control and handed over to the commies. This is not feudal China becoming communism or feudal Japan. This is the United States. And there is a large segment, a huge growing remnant, who know exactly what's going on. And I assure the New World Order, you're trying to do this by increments, but you've moved too quickly. And I just want to speak to the police and military and others. For heaven's sake, I beg you, prostrate on my knees. I am bowing and kneeling and literally kissing your feet humbly. I will wash your feet if you would just wake up. Literally, at a spiritual level, I want you to know I am on my knees humbly, begging you to be human beings, begging you to learn a little bit about history, begging you to look into my claims, begging you. These people that are in control of our country, absolute documented fact, mainstream history books, funded Lenin, funded Stalin, funded Hitler, put Mao into power. It's now on the History Channel. They love evil. They love to kill. They want to set up a police state. They want to stage terror. They want to arrest millions of people. They want to kill en masse. We've got to say no. Please listen to me. This is life and death. These folks do not play games. They will purge this country from one to the other. Do you know why it's called Night of the Long Knives? You ever heard that term? Ernst Röhm, head of the SA, the brown shirts, several million strong, that stormed to power and brought Hitler to power after the staged terror attacks, brought him to full Führership. A few months after the February 27th Reichstag fire, they had the Night of the Long Knives, and it wasn't gypsies or Jews or Christians that didn't go along, Protestants that didn't go along. That came later. It was tens of thousands, more than 20,000 SA members killed in a couple-week period. But in the Night of the Long Knives, they killed over 1,000 of the leadership, including Ernst Röhm. And they would do it inside their houses. They would get them in a car and take them down the street. And it's called Night of the Long Knives because they bound them, gagged them, and then slit their throats in ditches and at the end of cul-de-sacs or in their houses. Ernst Röhm, dog-like devotion to Hitler. When they walked into his cell after they had grabbed him, he screamed, "Heil Hitler," and the SS officer shot him 4 times in the chest. But most of them were taken and gagged, and then a big old SS dagger was drawn right across their throats. Now, purges are the first thing that's done once they take full power. And you are the #1 target. Dirty cops, drug-dealing cops, corrupt FBI, hostage rescue team people, protective services, and the federal marshals. Those of you that wouldn't, the good guys who wouldn't take part in bad as well, but also the bad, you are going to be killed. Now, they didn't believe it in Germany. They didn't believe it in Russia. They didn't believe it in China. They didn't believe it in 100+ countries. They didn't believe it in Rhodesia. They didn't believe it in Rwanda. They didn't believe it in Nicaragua or El Salvador. They didn't believe it in Chile. They didn't believe it any of these places. Brazil, Sierra Leone. I want you, when you're on your knees in a ditch or in some federal processing center and these guys are strutting around laughing and they're felons, they're illegal aliens, they're black ops, and I want you, right as you hear them cartridge and load the gun, right as you hear them chamber the round, I want you, when you're in there smelling your last smells, seeing your last thing, right as they're giggling and there's a row of your dead buddies lined up next to you, I want you to remember that I warned you. Don't be like Ernst Röhm. Don't be like the 20,000 SA exterminated by Adolf Alois Hitler 2 months after he came to power. Because they know where all the bodies are buried. They have the system to overthrow the order. They are more worried about you blocking them, taking power from them, you remembering the story you were told of why you were doing this and then questioning, and then they're going to bring in the real dogs behind you. That aggravated felon they hired that you're forced to work with in black ops. That criminal you've been forced to work with. That illegal you've been forced to work with. That Czech Republic. That Russian. That Manilan. They're the ones that are going to be blowing your heads off, not us. You understand me? I don't want you to be hurt. I don't want you to die. I hate it when you set up old farmers who've got black powder, which is totally legal, just because your bosses want the property. And you have really cursed yourself doing that. You bought more bad luck than you can possibly imagine. You got God to deal with. But I don't hate you, and I realize you're weak-minded and were sucked into a gang mentality and used. But I'm telling you as a student of history that you'd better listen up and you'd better listen good and hard to what I'm saying, because I'm telling you the truth.